The Secretary of the Navy, Washington, December 19, 1958. Dear Pete, I am sending over the enclosed people-to-people report for your information and also because of its possible interest to the President. I know he has a vital interest in the program itself. This is a small illustration of how it works. It is a strange thing, but the Moroccans seem to like the Navy and our people think they want us to stay there. All kinds of informal comments repeat this and come back here to me. This seems to be contrary to what is said publicly and what the political position is. We have even had some conversations lately about the development of a deep water port at Lyautey, which seems strange in view of the published clamor for our departure. Sincerely, Minus Stain, Captain E.P. Orand, USN, Naval Aide to the President. The White House, Washington, D.C. Enclosure. A salute to friendship at work. President Eisenhower's people-to-people program is getting a big play at the multi-million-dollar naval installation at Port Lyautey, Morocco. Morocco is the Western window in the Arab world. What is seen and believed of the Americans there personifies the United States of America. Language is no barrier to visible expression of goodwill. Here is what they see. Abdul Hamid El Alawi, Pasha of Kenitra, Admiral James L. Holloway, Commander-in-Chief, U.S. Naval Forces, Eastern Atlantic and Mediterranean, and Captain J. L. Counihan, Commander, U.S. Naval Activities, Port Lyautey, Kenitra, Morocco. A good neighbor helps the needy and visits the sick, supports local charities, socializes with his neighbors, and teaches his neighbors' children to play golf. American children help, too, as this American youngster walks away with top scholastic honors at Kenitra's Lycée Abdelmalek Es Saadi. A Red Cross Grey Lady, Mrs. David Sylvie, fits a Moroccan student with a sweater, as Ahmed Belhaj, director of the Takadoum School in Kenitra, shows her a box of junior Red Cross school supplies collected by students at the dependent school here. Clothing drives such as this one are a part of the massive community support given by the base at Port Lyautey/Kenitra. Chaplain David Kasaza, lower left, presents a check for $500,000 to Kenitra's Pasha, mayor, for the Entraide Nationale, Morocco's national welfare organization. This money was raised by voluntary contribution at station church services. Nurse Van Adams, below, visits the understaffed local hospital to give technical aid. In the sports field at right, Moroccan high school children learn golf from Stanley Grant, the station pro. The departure of Shore Patrol Investigator Technical Sergeant Charles Maroukian, USMC, was the occasion for this buffet dinner right center with his working contemporaries of the Moroccan Police Department. An American dependent who is studying at Lycée Abdelmalek Es Saadi, young Chris Blair, does credit to his age group as he takes 3 first prizes in 2 seconds at the year-end awards ceremony held, right, by the Pasha of Kenitra, as Captain H.K. Bragg, Chief Staff Officer to the Comnivax P/L, looks on. Dedication. This report of our people-to-people program is dedicated to the Honorable Thomas S. Gates, Secretary of the Navy, whose own example of dedication to duty, support of the Naval Air Reserve Overseas Program, and practical people-to-people work in the Navy has inspired us to make this program an important effort here. U.S. Naval Activities. Kenitra, Morocco. Our job, making friends for America. The most important job any American overseas has today is that of making friends for America, to know and be a friend to the millions of people who have neither our heritage of freedom nor our economic opportunities. Probably one of the best and most important end results of the forward positioning of U.S. forces in the many lands and areas throughout the world is not the military action which may or may not come on our watch, but the influencing of the people of that area to our side in the basic struggle between freedom and tyranny. Each of us may be the means by which the uncommitted millions, who daily struggle for existence and who hope for a better future, learn about us and aspire to our way of life. One learns quickly overseas that these people look to us, the representatives of the great power of the West, to show them by our Christian example of the good neighbor, by our tolerance and respect for their religion and way of life, by our help and assistance in broadening their horizons and opportunities, to make real their perceived image of all Americans. Similarly, by our selfishness, bad example, and intolerance, we drive from us the very people we were sent to influence to our side. Here in Morocco, in Africa, in the Muslim world, we have a rare opportunity to carry out our work of making friends for America. Probably in no other place can so few influence so many for so little and with such promising results. Their attitude toward America and the West could well be influenced by the personal conduct and the personal example of each of us here on duty. In no other area is the people-to-people program so important to our success and tenure in the long pull ahead. To be a man among men, to show in oneself the proper example of zeal, sobriety, and discipline, to be sympathetic to the needs and problems of the host country, to respect their laws and customs as we expect them to respect ours, to learn their language, to communicate our interest in their problems, these are the ways of making friends for America. No citizen of the great republic has any more important job to do, nor any more important duty here. J. L. Counihan. Published as an editorial in the Port Layouty Lock of October 31, 1958. Yes, the people-to-people program gets a big play at Port Layouty. 7,000 Americans reside here, military personnel and their dependents. A generation of Moroccans has grown up knowing and liking them, for the Navy has been here constantly, since the Allied landings in November 1942. Ever since Morocco emerged early in 1956, as an independent sovereign state, there has been the inevitable cry of foreigners go home from one end of the political spectrum. The psychological appeal of such a rallying cry is hard to combat. And we combat it in the only way we know how, by showing them what we are and how we think, work, and act, by showing them the tangible impact of our contribution to the local economy, and the intangible advantages of what they have learned, and may still learn from us while we remain here. The future of the African continent may well depend upon us. Never have our opportunities and our responsibilities been greater. Again and again, the Navy has demonstrated that its rescue facilities are doing the job that would normally be done by the Moroccan Coast Guard, if such an organization were in existence. Here, helicopter crewman Frank C. Osborne, AD-1, USN, is being congratulated upon his return from a rescue mission to the Moroccan trawler Al Widad by Captain J. L. Counihan, USN, Commander, U.S. Naval Activities, Port Layouty, Kenitra, Morocco. Osborne and the pilot LCDR Giuseppe Bello, USN, took 4 crewmen off the ship, which had foundered on the rocks at Point Acacia near Casablanca on January 27, 1958, and brought them safely to shore. The Al Widad rescue effort was the 5th such effort within a month, by Port Layouty-based Navy planes and helicopters. At Wright, a Navy transport plane circles overhead as Navy and Air Force helicopters go in to help the snowbound Moroccan villagers in the Rif Mountain, town of Jebel Dakatma, some 7,500 feet up. Navy planes were the first to spot and circle the isolated mountaineers on January 2nd. In another search, 7 stranded survivors in the bow section of the Norwegian oiler Seerstad were spotted January 15th by a Neptune patrol plane of VP-26, as it drifted southeast of Minorca after breaking off during a bad Mediterranean storm. The pilot of the plane, LTJGAN Klein, found the nearby Italian cargo ship, Rubicon, by radar, and led it back to the drifting survivors by flares. Other assists given were the helicopter rescue of the crew of the French cargo ship, Peyhaut, which ran aground, also at Point Acacia, and the helicopter evacuation of an American citizen badly injured in an automobile accident at Córdoba, Spain. Navy people in Morocco have been quick to respond to local calls for help. Red Cross volunteer workers are shown at Wright before a truckload of clothing collected for victims of a Rabat fire disaster, which swept through a poor district of the town. In center, wearing sweater and skirt, is Princess Lala Aisha, who heads the Entraide Nationale, Morocco's national welfare organization. Another appeal came in from the Muslim Taqadum school in Kenitra, which needed supplies for its infirmary. The Officers' Wives Club, OWC, at Port Layouty volunteered for this job, and members are shown presenting the medical supplies to Ahmed Belhaj, director of the school. OWC members are left to right, Mrs. Otto H. Schlicht, Mrs. J. L. Counihan, and Mrs. Herbert K. Bragg. Some difficulty was encountered by the Officers' Wives Club in procuring some of the medical supplies, since many of the ones on order were long in disuse in the United States. But the modern equivalents were found to the satisfaction of the school. Nevertheless, this young man appears to be highly skeptical of the possible after effects of the disinfectant just put on his newly bandaged cut. Doubtless he was prepared to be a martyr to science in his role of guinea pig. Naval Reserve Squadrons are an important part of the People-to-People program, selected by the Chief of Naval Air Reserve Training for overseas deployment. These citizen sailors have done a fine job of representing their communities over here. These reservists have stirred up much interest on both sides of the Atlantic, since the U.S. press faithfully reports their experiences in Morocco, and Moroccan newspapers and radio are eager for details on the community which their visitors represent. Radio Morocco, with 27 million listeners within their 140,000 watt range, has broadcast a series of 12 programs catching the flavor of the home communities of the current visiting squadrons. A group of Minnesota reservists was startled in connection with one of these programs by being shanghaied out of a sightseeing tour and hustled into a Radio Maroc auditorium, where they performed a creditable chorus of the Minnesota Rouser for one such program. Their shipmates opined that a completely new interpretation of the song had been found. Deploying squadrons have found that publicity-conscious hometown industries are delighted to chip in, with samples of their production to be used as bread-and-butter gifts. Aside from the good initial impact as a friendly diplomatic gesture of presentation, these gifts serve as semi-permanent monuments to Moroccan-American friendship. Here Princess Lala Aisha, eldest daughter of the king, looks over an Onan gasoline-driven generator, which is now providing electrical power for a back-country Moroccan hospital. This generator was part of a group of presents brought over by VR 813 of Minneapolis. Presents which included new antibiotics for use in fighting trachoma, a prevalent eye disease here, and notably hybrid corn seed which is particularly well adapted for growth under local conditions. Another Minneapolis squadron, VP 812, followed through with new insecticide sprays and 3 pedigreed Columbia sheep, as well as 75 ampoules of frozen semen from 3 gold medal American bulls. Other reserve squadrons also brought along presents with a future, and VR 771 and VP 776, both of Los Alamitos, came through with 36,000 pencils for Morocco's school children and some sample cases of a new basic food mixture, which can be developed locally for emergency famine use, as well as a basic staple. Morocco's papers give the Navy a good press, as the enclosed clippings on VP 812 activities testify. In fact, the press is sometimes too enthusiastic, and the COMNVCTS public information officer sometimes has the unique job for his position of attempting to tone down the overly lyrical efforts of our admirers in order to keep them from scribbling out blank checks that the Navy can't cash. And the United States press is kind to us too. The montage at right gives an idea of the depth of coverage generated back home by the visit of one VR and one VP squadron to Port Lyautey in a joint deployment. Such coverage has been duplicated in other areas 9 times this year. People-to-people contact has been encouraged at all levels by the Navy, and has been particularly successful among groups of nurses and school teachers, who have exchanged visits at their respective schools and hospitals. Here a Navy nurse visits a smiling young Moroccan patient in Kenitra's Cantarac Hospital. And medical men from Kenitra reciprocate with pleasure in a visit to the Navy Station Hospital. Youngsters and sports made a surefire combination in terms of crowd appeal at the Midsummer Madia Lake Festival, which the whole Kenitra area turned out to celebrate. All Kenitra had a chance here to watch the American game, and to get an idea of what goes into the making of an American. If anyone got a good idea of baseball at the game, it probably wasn't through one of the local papers, which published this highly stylized version of the game. Baseball is a game which is played between 2 teams of 9 players each. Naturally, there is a ball, and an engine to play with which is called bat. The ground on which the play is going on is square, and in the middle there is a round place called diamond, where the pitcher is staying. He is charged to send the ball to the degree catcher. This man is placed in the home plate from where the ball has been sent and has to return to. The other players are outside the ground and are called outfielders. These men will get in the field when the players will throw the ball 3 times outside the lines and will be disqualified. The man who sends the ball back to the home plate is supposed to be the winner. Finally, it is really an unrestrained run, and the baseball game is a very tiring sport. It is very popular in England, but especially in America. Also of value in promoting mutual understanding are the competitive individual and team sports, such as this invitational swimming meet, shown at the beginning of the 50-meter backstroke finals. The Air Station basketball team has also become well known in town, since it began signing up local athletic clubs as a regular part of its schedule.